Hello, friends. It's been a minute since we did a live stream, little long time, and we thought we were going to do some director screenplay tech prediction updates. We haven't done these since I think before the fall festival, so it's been a minute. Um, and then you'll get our main predictions for like picture and acting and all that stuff. Post Wikiator or Glihid, whatever you want to call the Gladiator Wicked double combo, we'll do that then. But we're also going to have a video discussing the Golden Globes, an early preview of that, so we can kind of get around discussing our category, our thoughts on those categories. So, without further ado, before we get into all of these categories, any thoughts, Anthony?
Well, I think we should probably state the where we see the race right now, because I think it'll
Yeah.
influence our
Mhm.
picks. Because right now, I think anybody who has a passing knowledge of award season can tell that there is no front runner. There's no agreed
Mhm.
upon front runner, and even in years in the past where the front runners have shown up late, they've been late breaking, like Everything Everywhere or Coda. There were movies in its place that people kind of accepted and got behind, whether that was Power of the Dog or The Fablemans. Those movies made sense to be front runners.
Mhm.
Um, I, I don't think you can this year. I think there is no
No.
unanimous decision. You could make an argument for anything really in the top five. Um, and so I think that's where it's really interesting. And right now, I can just tell you, I'm going on passion. Looking for the movies that are really exciting people and are not the movies that I think everybody just accepts will do very well. I'm looking for the movies that will really energize the fans that then will get the rest of the industry to pay attention to, like we saw with Everything Everywhere, like we saw with Oppenheimer. There were a lot of people saying, including myself, how brilliant the movie was, that it gives that extra level of support. I don't think you rise to the top in any of these categories because you're good enough. You need that really strong support. So that's how I'm approaching this season right now until the
Mhm.
front runner has been made aware to us. But honestly, I could see where we don't know the front runner up until Oscar night. Honestly, this is going to be a really
Yeah.
exciting season.
It is for sure. And I think also stating the obvious of the race, I think regardless, I think this will impact the race, the state of the world. I don't think we've really talked about it. Post election, you know,
Yeah,
just it's addressing it a little bit. I think I think it was Roger Ebert who said movies are empathy machines. And you
empathy,
know,
right?
yeah, empathy,
Wait,
yeah.
for a second, I thought you said empty machines. I was like, he
Empty
didn't say that.
machines. No, empathy machines. And I think as we can see based off the voting, I think maybe we need a little more empathy in the world. So we're going to keep talking movies
And
and
I
be
will
a nice
say,
distraction from
on
what's
that
going on.
note, I think it's very interesting how people are going to respond, because let's just say the obvious, the Academy, the whole world will be responding for the next couple of months to
Mhm.
the second inauguration of Donald Trump. And I don't necessarily I mean, the voting is probably going to happen right around the time that he is inaugurated, end of
Mhm.
January.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily know if the same reaction is going to happen to this event than it did the first time. Because you looked at Moonlight and you could sense, okay, this makes sense as a sort of film to come out in the wake of the first trumpeting. But I don't know if you should be looking for a Moonlight, because I feel like that movie would probably be Amelia Perez, but I'm not sure we're in the same headspace. So that's just something to keep in mind. I think it's very salient that you bring it up, but
Mhm.
also the empathy thing. I think we might get a different outcome this time. Is
We
all I'll say.
might.
So
It's
it's very interesting.
it's hard to gauge how the Academy will want to respond, but I think it's also worth mentioning when I bring up in a second what I'm putting at number one in Best Director, because as you said, it's a very crazy time. We don't really know what's happening, and I've decided, there's a very predictable movie that most people have at number one in picture and director. And I'm just not going to do that, and this probably won't happen. But it's kind of like the last chance before these precursors begin for me to do something a little different. So without further ado, let's bring up the predictions. And
Ooh.
I decided
Ho ho.
I'm predicting Nickel Boys. I mean, obviously to win Best Picture because I have it winning Best Director. Because I think that is kind of similar to the Moonlight outcome. I think first off, you talk about inspiring passion. I think this film, once more people see it, it's really only hit the festival so far. This is a film that will inspire passion in both directions. I don't think everyone's going to love it, but I don't think anyone's going to hate it. I have a hard time seeing anyone hating it, but I think the people who love it are really going to love it. It's my favorite film of the year. It's easily, I think, my favorite film of the decade so far. It's groundbreaking. As lots of the quotes you've probably seen about the film, a new American masterpiece. I mean, the the words are strong for this film, but they're not hyperbolic because they're real. It's very true, and I think I don't know. I just feel like looking at the other options in director and picture, because I mean they're kind of connected at least with these two. I just don't see Sean Baker for Anora. I mean, that could just happen if the film is winning Best Picture, but like that doesn't seem like a director winner to me. Brady Corbet for The Brutalist could just happen. I don't think that's winning picture no matter what, but he could just end up winning director. But once again, I don't have a ton of. I just the film seemed both of these films, but Anora, especially based off of the recent release, seemed to have being a little more divisive than expected. Lots of people after seeing The Brutalist seem to be less high on the second half.
Mhm.
I think those are, and then obviously Denis, I think will probably get nominated, and then Jack Audiard for Emilia Perez. I don't think either of those have a shot at winning. I think Audiard has a chance of missing. Honestly, I think as you can see, Emilia Perez just hit the timeline in terms of Twitter. Lots of people seeing it. I think it's divisive, but I do think he will. He's another. That's another movie that will inspire passion, and he's kind of the international can pick this year. So I have him there. I could see him missing, but I don't really feel confident in putting anyone else in there. But yeah, Ramel Ross. I'm sticking with Nickel Boys because I think it's a film also that's it's not the kind of film that I think you would expect it to be. It's kind of about like persistence and survival through very difficult times. So I can see people making that connection. And I do think it is a bit of a statement to have that as your winning film. And yeah, I don't know. I'm taking a bit of a chance here, but that's what I'm
Yes.
doing for right now.
And I grant you that chance because I think that
Yeah.
you obviously love the movie and I think are rooting for it. And I hope you'll remember that when we get to another movie that I'm going to be talking about.
Yes. Yeah.
um,
Probably.
I think for me right now, I think it's a fine pick. It could be proven correct. I just see nobody talking about this movie, and we're in the middle of November. And I just do I think it has no chance? No, I think it could get in here. And what you said as far as how it's going to play with audiences, the vision of the movie is quite distinct. But I
Yeah.
also could see that vision turning some people off. I mean, the movie
It will.
currently on Rotten Tomatoes has 85%. I mean, that isn't
Oh
the
wow.
glowing endorsement. I've seen some people not jive with the movie. Um, and I could see this being a movie that, is well regarded, but doesn't really have that oomph that gets it into a lot of these top categories. So until it's released, I'm going to keep it on the outside looking in personally. Because at
Hmm.
least these other filmmakers, people have seen the movies, people have liked the movies. I think you brought up Jacques Audiard. I think Amelia Perez as a whole might underperform our original expectations because it is
I think
proving to
so.
be more polarizing and divisive. And I also think the politics of the movie could ice some people off. Speaking of the current political climate we're in, they might be
Hmm.
emboldened because of the current political climate we're in. But there's a lot with that movie that I think could ebb and flow. But I'm not necessarily sure that Jacques Audiard will wear that. I could see this being, one of the categories, maybe one of the few with song that it wins. I actually have him currently at number one, just because
Really? You have him winning? Wow.
yeah, just because I agree with your assessment on Sean Baker and Brady Corbett. I think they're younger filmmakers who will most likely get in, but I'm waiting to see which of them really gets the momentum behind them, and I don't know which one yet will. I think Corbett is probably the one I have above Sean Baker, just because I think Sean Baker is going to be taken care of in screenplay.
Hmm.
Um, and with ODR, I think he is an more established filmmaker. He's probably the most established filmmaker that we have among this list that isn't Denis Villeneuve, who's already doing
Yeah,
something we've expected from him. He's doing a sequel, of course. And it is a bold vision. If you've seen this movie, and I highly advise,
it
I know it's
is.
difficult, look for it in a theater. I got to see it in a theater with a sold out crowd. And I think maybe that's why I'm more positive on the movie, because I think I had a wonderful viewing experience. But I think if you give yourself to the movie, it is a very unique vision. And because he's an established, international director, and this category has been drifting in that direction, I could see him benefiting from that. And I do think it's still one of the top contenders, top five for picture, and this might be the way to honor the movie. So I currently have him at one, and then I agree with you on Corbett and Baker. Denis, I'm still toying with because I still think that I still think he's on the bubble. I still have to see people really get out behind him because people were out behind him for the first one and he missed. So
Hmm.
what world he's got to then surmount that level of enthusiasm that he had for the first one in order to be
I
considered.
think the second one did surmount the first one in terms of the enthusiasm.
Well, when it came out, of course, but now, and
Yeah, that's
obviously
true.
Warner Brothers doesn't have to balance, Furiosa and Joker. They can put everything behind
Yeah.
Part Two, and it's early. They could
He's
still bring
campaigning too.
that, and he's
Like
campaigning.
he's doing Q&As with Christopher Nolan and stuff. So
Yeah, and he did the double feature, I think, at TIFF, right, of the
he
two
did,
movies.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he's out there, but so I want to see that movie, be brought back, and then I'll feel more confident. Right now, I would probably put him at like 6 or 7 with Edward Berger.
Hmm.
Berger could get in there. I just don't think it's flashy enough for the directors to consider it.
Yeah.
I did see it again though, and I really really enjoy the film. And talk about a movie that could benefit post the election.
Being topical, yeah.
Yes. The two I'm going to put in here are just, again, as I said at the top, I'm putting the ones that I see the most passion behind, the ones that I think people are going to be excited to see, and the ones with the narrative. So Corley Farge is currently in my
Hmm.
5.
Okay, I can see that for sure.
I've been very impressed with how the substance has been holding on, because it is, it did well in theaters, had a nice box office gross, and now that it's on digital, I just think people are really getting excited about this movie, and I think she will benefit. She'll have the international support. I do think there is going to always be a concerted effort to try and get a woman in the category, and she is deserving on
She's
her
the
own.
only shot this year, but
She's
yeah,
the only
she's
shot,
totally deserving.
but also no matter the gender, I think she would definitely be deserving. I honestly probably she's my winner of this category if she was in it.
She's my
Um,
second favorite.
yeah. So I think if she continues to do, I think if Demi Moore continues to do well, then she could also come along with it. I also do think there's a possibility where she maybe sneaks into screenplay and maybe not into director. So that's something to keep an eye out for.
That's the award she won at
Yeah.
Cannes.
But I see an Anatomy of a Fall sort of trajectory for this movie. I could see it getting like picture, director, screenplay, actress.
I do still worry about. I think Anatomy of a Fall is the kind of film that appeals much more to the Academy's tastes than this. I know the Academy is changing and growing, but I think especially those last 20 minutes make it rough for me to fully commit to like putting it in picture, director, and all this stuff currently. And it's also Mubi. If it was like a bigger distributor behind it who like was able to give that bigger push, I might be a little more confident. I mean, they're doing good so far, keeping it up and in discussion. I think Demi Moore is a big part of that. I think she'll keep campaigning.
Yeah.
It's definitely possible. I just need to see it actually happen somewhere before I fully commit to it.
Yeah. Which totally fair. Again, I'll balance out our list, I guess.
Yes.
In many
Yeah.
ways. And
I'm curious who your last one is.
I think you can probably imagine.
Oh, okay. Yeah, never mind. Yeah. I don't think so, but
this is how I'm feeling about this. If you can tell by my optimism, I have seen Wicked, and therefore I'm going to put John M. Chu in here. And this is the reason. I know some of you are going to be like, what? This is ridiculous. When you look at the recent trend of popular directors that missed out, and we imagine they were in that 6th spot, speaking of Denis Villeneuve for Dune Part 2, James Cameron for Avatar, The Way of Water, Greta Gerwig for Barbie. The reason why I don't think he fits in that category is because all of those directors had been previously nominated in the directing category, and in Cameron's case, he's won before. So there isn't this feeling of like they already have their roses or poppies when it comes to Wicked. His narrative is freaking insane that he went from what Step Up 2 and Justin Bieber Never Say Never, and now he's directing a potential Best Picture top tier contender. So I think that narrative is really impressive, and he's worked with a lot of people in the industry that I think always does benefit you. The reason also why I'm looking at this is, again, I've seen the movie. It is on a scale that I think is really impressive, and I think is going to impress a lot of Academy voters. We already saw this have a 9-minute standing ovation at the first Academy screening. The Academy, I think, is going to really love this movie. And I do think that this movie is closer to the feat of La La Land or Chicago or West Side Story as far as what the musical craft is doing here. And I don't think we've seen this sort of musical in a very long time. I expect it to be a big box office hit that'll only help him, because it will prove that he's doing a type of movie that Hollywood and the Academy loves that they don't tend to see. I mean, West Side Story, for as much as I think the two of us liked it, right? You liked West Side Story?
Oh, I loved West Side Story.
Yeah. As much as we liked it, it had like no footprint. This will have a footprint, and I think it'll remind a lot of people not only why they love musicals, but why they love The Wizard of Oz. And that's why I said in my short review, if you want to go click one video when we're done this and watch, going to remind people a lot of The Wizard of Oz and these sort of classic movie musicals that they grew up with. There's a moment that harkens back to The Sound of Music in the field. And so I just think that what he's asked to do, he rises so greatly. And in a world where Todd Phillips can get nominated for Joker, I think John M. Chu could get nominated for Wicked. I just think my final thesis.
The director's branch is more so than any other branch, very pretentious and very specific with what they go for, and I just don't think personally that Wicked falls into that. I think it. I've joined. I mean, obviously not as enthusiastic as you, and you've seen the film, so you can speak
Yeah.
more to its chances in the category. But I just looking at what I know of the film and what I know of the director's branch, I just
Mhm.
don't know if that's it seems much more Barbie-like to me in terms of its vibe than a like Joker like
Which
nomination. I think Joker,
I
there's like more of a prestige feel to it, even though it's
yeah.
not a great film.
Which I grant you, if you go back to our Wicked preview episode that we did,
Hmm.
I was skeptical. Listen, I don't think you could meet a bigger Wicked fan than I am, and I was skeptical of this movie up until recently because I did feel like it was going to be closer to Disney live action than even Barbie. But I think that this is going to do better than Barbie. I think it will win certain categories that Barbie did not, and we'll get to those. Um,
Hmm.
and I do think it's stronger in the acting than Barbie ever was as far as win competitive. I think the actors in Wicked are much better positioned than I think Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie and I guess America Ferrera ever were. So I see this movie doing better. And I also think we have to just acknowledge this is a weaker field than years past. Would Wicked have gotten
Yeah.
in the past years? I don't think so. I think that speaks more to the climate we're in. And again, I really do feel that the story that John M. Chu has is unique among his nominees. This is a very independent group, and I know that they often do go independent and international, but you still get your Spielbergs in there. You still get your
But
Scorseses. You
he's
still get
Spielberg.
the American
He's
filmmakers.
Scorsese. Yeah. But
I
these are
understand.
like legends.
I understand,
This
but
is John Chu, who made
I
In the
still
Heights. There's some In the Heights love in the
any
chat.
Crazy Rich Asians, he has the last couple of movies has
Hmm.
given him a little bit of more credibility, and I think it's honestly helped this movie have credibility. I don't think if he was coming off and Now You See Me Too, I don't know if this would be the same
No.
conversation. Oh boy, that movie. I'm still upset they didn't call it Now You Don't, but that's a separate thing.
Yeah.
Or at least make that the tagline,
Yeah.
something. So yeah, I know I'm going out on a limb, but in the end,
We're
I
both
really
going out on limbs here a little
yeah.
bit. So
I'm believing in the hype, and I just think more people are talking about it. And I do think that he will get a lot of credit for pulling off a type of movie that we don't see a lot. We see movies in the independent field that are like a lot of these other contenders. We see conclaves. We see, Anoras or Nickel Boys. You might disagree because I have to still see Nickel Boys, but
yeah.
we don't get this sort of movies like Wicked anymore. I think that's what's so exciting about it. I think that's what's going to make it such a big hit among everybody. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's where I
Some
stand.
thoughts from the chat. Burger is top two. I don't think he's top. I think the film could be a top contender, but I don't think that direction is strong enough in terms of like
Mhm.
directing wise for him to break through.
He seems
Let's
like
see.
Mark McDonough in Three Billboards. Like it could be a top
Yeah.
two contender, but it's not flashy enough direction. And I think it's a front runner for. Are we going to do screenplay? Can we
We'll
transition to
do
adapt to
screenplay.
screenplay?
Well, the original is next, but then we can
Oh, okay.
transition. But
Anyway, I
yes,
think Conclave is going to be taken care of with wins potentially in two categories. So I think if he misses director, it's not
potentially
the biggest thing. But he could get
he's
in.
not
I
the
think,
highlight.
yeah, the
Yeah.
children yearn
We
for.
do yearn for a nom for challengers, but unfortunately, I don't think that will happen. Luca has a great year, two great films, but I don't think he'll be nominated for either. We got Trevor. He's alive, people. He's
Woo!
not dead. He's just at college. Just watch Amelia Present. If it wins anything, I'm gonna kill myself for real, for real. Anyways, I think I probably agree. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I'm also not a huge fan of the film. Anthony was, but
Yes.
yeah,
I could write a thesis because I've been fortunate enough to see all of the major Netflix contenders, like most of them in theaters, like Power of the Dog, and I'm trying to go through them all. The Roma I
Maestro.
saw in a
Did you see
theater.
May December in theaters?
I did not see May December in theaters. That's one I saw at
Mm.
home. But like Maestro I saw in theaters. So like I think that has something to Lost Daughter. I just because I feel like it's just so I don't know. Again, it's to each their own, but I feel like I tend to try to give these movies the best experience I can. Because whenever I talk to people about Netflix movies, they're like, "Oh, I turned it off halfway." I don't think Trevor did. I think Trevor, in his
Trevor
mind,
commits to it.
yeah,
Yeah. And he is indeed back to YouTube. Well,
yeah,
he's back on YouTube. He's not posting, but I'm sure he will be soon. Trevor is invited on this channel anytime. But yeah, I agree. I agree with him on Amelia Perez. So we'll see how that movie develops now that more of the public is seeing it for
yeah,
sure. But yeah, there's usually at least one nominee in these categories that is not everyone's favorite, but still gets in. So that's that. I think that's pretty much it for director.
yes,
Speaking of screenplay, original screenplay, I think we can still agree, even if we're not huge on Honora, that it's the front runner for original screenplay.
Oh yeah.
I don't honestly see who else it would be. The Brutalist seems more like a directing thing than a
Mhm.
screenplay thing. Then and I don't see the competition from anyone else. I think this is where they're going to be like, which is kind of why I don't feel super confident about Sean Baker winning director. I think everyone's going to be like, he's winning original screenplay, and that's where we'll give him his flowers, and he'll get his first Oscar win. And I don't really. That's why I'm not super confident in director. But and then A Real Pain is growing. It's getting more strong. It's doing decently at the box office, but I feel like that's where they're. That's a film that Searchlight will get in there, and then interesting last two spots here. I put Challengers in. It might be a little bit just my personal hype, but I feel like the screenplay for that. And speaking of great years, Justin Kritzky's is having a great year between this and Queer. I feel like that's a kind of like super creative screenplay with the way it jumps back in time and all that stuff. So I can see that happening. Then Hard Truths for Mike Lee. Mike Lee does really the writers branch really loves Mike Lee. I mean, I know he didn't. I think he really only didn't get in for his last film, and I think he got in for most of his previous films before that. And the writing in Hard Truths is great. It's
Mhm.
just really if people see it in time, that I'm considering putting The Substance in there instead because it did win the screenplay award at Cannes, but I just feel like that's much more of a directing thing than a screenplay thing. I feel like the screenplay is maybe, I mean, I love the film, but the weakest part of the film. It's not very subtle, and I know it's not supposed to be, but I don't think it's its strongest strength. So I don't know if the writers branch will go for that, and then everything else. See the Sacred Fig. I can see a narrative for that. I just need to see that film get more buzz. It's kind of died off. And then Baby Girl. I love Baby Girl, but it probably won't happen. So I'm just putting it out there. But it's great. Great movie. Maybe once it releases and more people see it and believe the hype of how amazing it is, they'll put it in there. But yeah, that's my five. How about you?
So yeah, so check in. The
Hmm.
only two movies that you have in this category and Best Picture are your top two, correct?
I have A Real Pain in Best Picture as
Okay,
well.
all right. Because I was gonna make sure. Because I feel like in the last couple of years, talk about new trends. They tend to not like there's like one or two,
Hmm.
or like in a rare year that are not in
Yeah.
picture or in screenplay. I remember last year, what it was not, 9 out of their 10 nominees, and the one that missed
Hmm.
was Delirious.
Sometimes the
Seven.
balance is, speaking of substance, the
Yeah,
balance is off where like more of the contenders are. I think like this year in adapted than original, so
yeah.
it's hard to do that. But yeah,
Sure. And then just looking back at like 2022, for example, you had Women Talking, which won, All Quiet, and Top Gun, and then the two that weren't in picture were Glass Onion, that seems to just be the one category Knives Out will always get nominated for,
yeah, yeah.
Living, which I just don't think was big enough, but definitely had a lot of fans. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. I feel like Challengers, Hard Truths. I want to see Hard Truths. Challengers, of course, I love. It's still in my top 5 of the year.
Yeah.
I struggle to see like how it's like these movies, especially when Luca's going to also have Queer, which I think Daniel Craig is still in the conversation for. So I think that movie will just have more conversation about it. Maybe Critics' Choice can
I don't
provide
think so.
challengers. Uh,
Yeah.
but at least you could at least admit that Queer is going to, because of Daniel Craig's consideration, there is a top contender category that will have more conversation about it, even if he's in the 6 through 8 range. Than
Maybe, but I think more of these precursors will like challenges more. Like at the Golden Globes, our challengers is going to get multiple nominations. I can see that the Critics' Choice
oh,
Awards are gonna. I think it definitely will with the comedy award placement, but I think Critics' Choice Awards will like it more than Queer. Queer is really just Daniel Craig as its only shot, and that's it. I can see challengers with screenplay, score, maybe
mhm.
editing.
Yeah. So I think where I'm at is that Conclave. Oh, sorry, I'm in adapted. I need to be an original.
You're an
There we go.
adapt, yeah.
Honora and the Brutalist, definitely.
Hmm.
And I think Honora will likely take the win.
Yeah.
But we'll see if the Brutalist, if they want to give the Brutalist something and other categories come up short, then maybe this is the one it wins. But I think Honora will win this category. I think it's the tonal balances of that screenplay are, I think, going to be very admired. Um, I have The Substance at 3. I think that
Okay.
I see a movie that this is going to just rise.
You
And
have it in picture, right?
I do now have it. I have it
Yeah.
getting, I think, 5 nominations. So picture,
Okay.
director, actress for Demi Moore, original screenplay, and makeup and hairstyle. So
Hmm.
nice
Yeah.
package for that movie.
That's a good.
Um,
Yeah.
I have A Real Pain in there at 4. And then I'm toying right now because I'm a little bit higher on this movie because I think once the Academy starts seeing it, I do think they'll get behind this movie in a way that I frankly I don't understand why this movie's underperforming. Is Blitz. Um, Again, I don't. I don't see a world where the Academy doesn't eat that up. I mean, they ate up
I
Darkest
don't
Hour.
think they
Why are
will.
they not going to eat up Blitz? That somebody has to
I think
explain to me why this movie is so like. Because again, I've seen it. I I just don't understand how when movies like Darkest Hour get in there or like King's Speech, you have these like somewhat safe, but I don't think Blitz is safe. I think it has the sheen of something that looks like that, but I think it actually has an emotional underbelly that is more authentic and daring that I think people are giving it credit for. And it's coming off of Steve McQueen, who, is a recent Oscar winner within the last 15 years. So I'm going to put it in at number 5 until I'm forced to just admit that this
I
isn't.
think you will be forced to.
But
Yeah.
I really just I don't see a world where Blitz, which is definitely has higher Best Picture prospects than any of these other movies, misses out.
Oh, I just feel like Blitz, one, I mean, I haven't seen it yet, but people seem to think the screenplay is one of the weaker parts of the film, and everyone who seems to see it seems to just think it's like fine to like maybe not that good. And you seem to be an exception, but it seems like most people aren't huge on it. And I just feel like it's released in theaters already. No one's talking about it. It's going to release on Apple, I believe, the weekend of Gladiator Wicked. So no one's going to talk about it then. There's just no buzz for it. And I think people entering a Steve McQueen film have higher expectations than what it seems like they ended up getting.
But do we really think that, however, and I grant you, maybe that because they expected something and it was lower, even if it's more talked about than something like Seed of the Sacred Fig, it might look worse than that movie will. I grant you that.
Maybe.
But I want to see, because I think if Saoirse Ronan is able to get into the Golden Globe 6, and so there's conversation there about the movie, I could see this movie just like getting in just barely in enough places to keep it hanging on. Because again, you're just gonna have to tell me that Apple TV, which was the first streamer to win Best Picture very recently,
But they're not
is,
doing anything with it.
is flubbing the ball so much that movies like Mubi with The Substance, and I don't even know who's distributing Seed to the Sacred Fig, like these movies are able to rise above.
Neon.
So I'm just, again, I'm going with the just the narratives that I could see working out more than going off on the limbs that could end up being true. But just right now, there's too many hindrances for those movies to reach the general public and get on their radar. I think the worst comes to worst, Blitz at least is on voters' radar more than these other movies. They probably haven't even heard of Seed of the Sacred Fig or Hard Truths.
Yeah, but I think that might change by the time voting comes around. It seems like Blitz is in a continual trajectory of just downward, unless the Apple TV is able to change it. But right now, it just seems to be. And I think the only way it can be saved is if the BAFTAs love it. And I don't
Yeah.
think they're going to.
And remember, Blitz, I would be shocked if it didn't get like best sound. So like we know at least it's going to be in
It'll get
contention with
a
some of the
few
guilds.
texts.
It'll get a few texts, and that's a lot of times what you need. You get those texts, and they're like, "Oh yeah, that movie," and then because they've seen it, it gets in. At least
Maybe.
it's in the
I could see it.
conversation. Because a lot of these movies, I think you would be safe to say, might be their only nominations. Like there's a world where these other movies.
But I
Like,
think the writers branch is maybe my favorite branch in terms of taste, honestly. I think they've got pretty good taste in the movies they choose to nominate most years. And it seems like these are the kind of films that I think would appeal to them more so than Blitz, where I think that would appeal more to maybe some tech categories or director and such. So
I want to thank Nathan Mitchell for saying what needs to be said.
but that my role was too small. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry guys, I was too busy filming Baby Girl, I guess. So that's what happened there. I don't see it, but it seems like someone agrees with you. So yeah,
Mhm.
we'll see. I'm tempted to throw the substance in instead of hard truths. I probably should, but I feel like Mike
That
Lee
one
is
definitely.
loving.
I feel like you can argue me on
Mike Lee
Blitz, and
love it
I'll take
though.
that because I understand that for some reason I'm in the minority with this movie.
Yeah, it seems
Um,
like it.
but I mean, it does have like 81% of Rotten Tomatoes. This is not a
Yeah,
revival. This
it
isn't
just
like
seems like everyone's reaction is like, eh, and like I feel
Is
like
that
to
any
to
different
get,
than Darkest Hour? Was anybody coming out of Darkest Hour being like, yes? They obviously like
I
Gary
guess
Oldman.
people,
Maybe
yeah,
that's what it had. Is it had 2 Oscar-winning categories sewn up, and then they
yeah,
nominated for picture. And I think Dunkirk helped it too, being the same year, literally 2 halves of the same story.
connected.
But
Yeah,
I don't know. Just I feel like that sort of movie just fits. If you hear Blitz nominated, like if Kumail Nanjiani says, and the nominees for Best Picture, Blitz, I don't think anybody's gonna be that surprised.
I think I would be a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see. It's
In a
definitely we have
couple
to see how
months, I'll
these movies develop. But yeah, right now I don't feel very good about it. But who knows? Maybe it hits in the weekend of Glicked. That's the only movie anyone's talking about somehow. We'll see. I doubt it, but we shall see. Adapted screenplay. because I have Nickel Boys winning director and picture, I have it winning adapted screenplay based off of Pulitzer Prize winning book. Uh, it's a good screenplay. I know people are recognizing the direction and like visual aspects of the film more, obviously, because that is the standout, but it's still a really good screenplay. Great dialogue. It's like a very other people have said this. It's one of I think like the best like adaptations of a book because it's not just like it is a direct adaptation, but it just like does something so different like than what you'd expect. So because I have a winning picture, I have a winning screenplay. Conclave obviously would make sense as a winner. The only thing I worry about with that is still it's not a writer director, and that's not something that they've gone for. And I think the last one was what Call Me by Your Name. It's been a while since
Mhm.
they've done that, so that has me a little worried about it, but I could just
That
see
gives
that
me
end
the
up
most
happening.
pause with it, even
Yeah,
though I
if
have
it
it at
was
number
if
one.
it was Burger, I'd just be like, okay, that's probably it, because it is very topical with all the election stuff, and there's very direct dialogue in there that's pretty much like directly
And
being like
it
addressing
has
U.S.
two
politics.
monologues that I think are two of the
Hmm.
best written things in a movie this year, which is
Yeah,
what again, not seeing Nickel Boys is what I'm giving is what why I have Conclave at number
there
one.
are some good monologues in Nickel Boys.
Um, so, but I agree with your top four. We have this. We it's different
Yeah,
order. We those four I feel pretty good with because I
me too.
Nickel Boys is the type of movie because it does have a little bit more attention than some of those other movies you were talking about, like More Than Hard Truths and Seed of the Sacred Fig. Nickel Boys
Yeah,
is the type of movie that I think in a world where you're very upset and you're pounding the table like Charles Melton,
I can't have another May December year.
where
I
Nickel
can't.
Boys gets one. That would be hilarious if your favorite movie of the year only gets a screenplay nomination 2 years in a
That's better
row.
than nothing, I guess. Plenty of people's favorite movies of the year get nothing, but
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, come on. I Saw the TV Glow is not getting anything this year, and
no,
I
it's
just
not.
had to accept that.
Yeah.
Though maybe Wicked will make up for it. Um, but yeah, I think that top four I feel pretty good with. Even Dune, I think that there's the same respect that I think is
The
was
first
paid
one
for
got in.
this film. I think gets in
Yeah.
for this
Yeah. And
one.
Sing Sing, it's losing buzz, but still, I feel like it'll have enough buzz. A24 is going to re-release it in January in theaters. Hopefully, it'll get more buzz then as well. But in this category, I still feel like there's room for it.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah. And that last
I
spot.
actually have Sing Sing at my number two position right now.
Oh, interesting. If it gains more buzz, I could totally see it winning. But
Yeah.
right now, I'm not gonna do that. But
I also
la-
think we have to talk about this next time we do acting. But in a world where
yeah.
maybe Ray Fiennes is underperforming, and maybe Adrian Brody isn't as strong because it's like he's won, so there's not that oomph. And if Timothy Chalamet is good and a complete unknown, but maybe the movie's mixed, I could see a world maybe Coleman Domingo comes back from behind, and that could then give Sing Sing another wind. I don't
Mhm.
think people should count him out yet because he's such a wonderful talent and he's so personable.
He's
Um,
great. Yeah.
and
He's
I
great
do
on the
think he's
campaign.
the best. I love Ray Fiennes, and there are a few things that would make me happier this season than seeing Ray Fiennes become an Academy Award winner.
Yeah.
But we saw this happen with Paul Giamatti last year. Sometimes just because they've been around the longest doesn't mean they end up getting it. So I don't know. I would not count. I Sing Sing. I still don't count out entirely. I still think it could do better than some of the movies that I think people are comparing it to, like
Yeah.
Farewell or Past Lives, as far as this little quiet A24 movie that doesn't have the same patina of support.
The key to it is if it can win SAG Ensemble. If it wins SAG Ensemble, which it has the narrative to do that, and it fits previous winners,
Mhm.
then it's absolutely back in the game. But
Yeah,
yeah, we
it's
shall see.
Sing Sing is really rooting for Amelia Perez to like fall.
Continue to fall, which, as
Yeah.
you can see, I have it at number 6 here. I just feel like that's the kind of film that even if it does decently on Oscar nomination morning, I don't know if there's screenplays what they're going to go for. It's a musical as
Mhm.
well. I do see it underperforming a little bit, so I'm not going to put it there in screenplay, and I put in Almodovar for The Room Next Door instead. Um, just because I think that will probably get some international passion votes. And I'm not really, it's probably between those two for the final spot. I don't see a complete unknown getting in, even though I think the writer has two previous Oscar nominations. It's just biopics don't get in here, like musicals don't either. And then I'm Still Here. I think still has will continue to get more passion as more people see it later on in the year. And Hitman, who knows? I mean, when we talk about the
Not
acting categories again,
happening.
when we yeah, when we talk about the acting categories again, though, I think there's a chance for Glenn Powell, an actor, but
You're crazy.
that is
Uh,
not crazy. Netflix gets SAG nominations, so he'll get in at the SAG awards. He'll win the Golden Globe, and then he can fit in that Critics' Choice
I think Sebastian Stan is leaps and bounds ahead of Glenn Powell.
at the Golden Globe.
across the board. I don't see Hitman doing as well as people think it does.
No,
Um,
yeah.
but we shall see. Yeah, I agree. I think Almodovar actually makes a lot of sense in that fifth spot because it would be the writers paying attention to this great talent that is going to probably get ignored in other places.
Hmm.
I can see that doing well. Up until recently, I had Amelia Perez, but I do think that, and we might. I do think there's a possibility where we're the Twitter backlash. We're just putting too much into that, and that the because I've talked to voters in like the Writers Guild and people in the industry, and
People
they're
like
really
it, yeah.
impressed with the boldness of the movie. And so we might be putting too much stock into those 2 minute and 20-second clips that out of context make the movie look crazy.
They
Um,
do.
but at the same time, I do think that musicals, if they're going to have difficulty, they have difficulty in the screenplay
Great.
categories, which
Yeah.
is the other reason why this is by far this will be the hardest one. If Wicked wants to make a claim anywhere, this will be the
Yeah.
hardest category for it. What I will give it credit for is I think the themes of it, talking about the empathy at the top of the show, the fact that
Hmm.
the line, which I don't think is in the musical, I have to go back and check, that Jeff Goldblum says where the only way to unite people is to give them a real good enemy. Like I think like if we're talking
That's
about like
pretty sad,
those
though.
sort of themes that the story has, and because it's long, there are large chunks of the movie where there is no singing. So I would give that script maybe put that in the Top Gun categories, maybe a popular movie that can get in. And I
Hmm.
think Winnie Holtzman also is the screenwriter who wrote the book for the musical. She did a show called My So-Called Life. She also has a little bit of like, this would be a way to honor her. So that's on the outside for me right now. I'll give you The Room Next Door. I think that's a worthy nomination and a way to get that movie in where I don't think
Yeah.
it will go elsewhere. And then a complete unknown. I'm Still Here. Get Hitman out of here. I don't think those are happening.
Yeah. No, no. But I'm still sticking on to Glenn Powell can happen. I think so. And I
Mhm.
think you were referring to Stand for Apprentice, but I think at the Golden Globes
Yeah.
he's competing for a different man against Glenn Powell in
Oh,
that
he is.
category.
Wait, he had to
Yeah.
submit for one.
Well, The Apprentice is in drama and a different man's in
Yes. Okay.
comedy.
Thank you.
So
So
he's in both. He could be a double nominee. We'll see. Um,
also, I don't know what you were saying. It's not crazy, Anthony, but thank you for the support.
no, he's actually supporting me about Glenn Powell. So
Uh,
sorry.
oh
Glenn
God.
Powell can get in, people. He can
Oh,
get
okay.
in.
Well,
Yeah.
to each their own. I
Yeah.
just don't see that happening.
We'll see. We'll see. Um, Now into some text, cinematography, Nickel Boys once again. I think that's the standout of the film. I mean, every aspect of the film is great, but cinematography I think is groundbreaking. It's some of the best I've ever seen. Joe Frey is an up and coming cinematographer. He shot Alder Rhodes' Taste of Salt, which was a beautiful film. I think he's going to be a key part of the campaigning with this. I think he will be right. So far, it seems like he's going to be right beside Ramel Ross while they campaign it. And just looking at the other ones, it easily could just be The Brutalist. It probably will be. Based off the trailers I've seen, it looks very visually appealing. Doom Part 2 will be nominated. It won't win because it's a sequel and it looks similar to the first one. Maria, I think, will be nominated. It's Ed Lockman. It looks beautiful. You can speak more to that than me. Then Amelia Perez. I put it in there just because it is a good looking film. There's good lighting. There's some interesting camera movements. And it's more interesting than Conclave, which I think has some good, like, the way the shots are like composed and structured, like all those cardinals walking through and like one of them with an umbrella or well, I think one without an umbrella, whatever it was. So there's some interesting like structure and composition within the shots, but I don't think that it's like super showy in a way that Amelia Press is a little more showy.
So I take you back to 2022, and the category that got me the number 7th ranked
Oh yeah,
predictor
you did do
out of
well that year.
all
Yeah.
thousands of people who did Gold Derby, the one that got me to the front of the class was Tar for cinematography. And
Okay.
the reason that same logic right now is what's making me put in Conclave. Because not only do I think
Okay.
the composition
Hmm.
and the framing is exceptional, the fact that we can pull up images from that movie so clearly, I think speaks to the strength of that cinematography. So I have Conclave in there, not winning. I have it, in my
No,
5th position, but that's the reason why I'm going for Conclave.
that
Um,
makes sense. Yeah.
my top 2 is The Brutalist and Doom Part 2. I think you can't deny either one of them. They're the farthest of extremes.
Yeah.
But I think both are, worthy of the nominations and potentially the wins. And then I'm toying with Maria or Amelia Perez. I'm going to put in Maria because I think Ed Lockman is just a wonderful, historic cinematographer. I mean, just look at his filmography.
You've
And
seen both. Which one do you think looks better?
I would. Oh, that's tough.
Really? Wow.
Well, just because I mean, listen, I loved both those films. I would probably say
Mhm.
Maria is the one that I can think back to, and I can attribute like this is the feat of the cinematographer. Um,
He's a
there
bigger name too.
Yeah, because Amelia Perez still has that independent, that indie spirit that the thing with Maria is it's like you can tell like they spent, hours probably setting up certain shots. Where, Amelia
Mhm.
Perez has that, yeah, I'm trying to look for a word. Like it's not grunge, but it's like, that it's similar to Everything Ever All at Once, where it's like it has that like that personality of like an independent film. And I think Maria is looked at as the care and the craft of the shots. So you look at Amelia Perez and them walking through that hospital scene, when they're asking for the sex change operation, like that compare that to Maria where everything looks like a painting. So I
Yeah.
would say Maria. And then I'm going out on a limb. I think I'm going to put Nosferatu in there. The
Interesting.
Lighthouse got a nomination, and
It
this
did.
has like those. When you look at oh my God,
Eggers.
Edgar's, thank you. When you look at his filmography, Lighthouse had a fall release date. The other two didn't. And which movie did the
Mhm.
best? Lighthouse got a cinematography nomination. And
Yeah,
Nosferatu has a
I can see
December
it.
release date. So I could see this movie getting in makeup and cinematography. And I just think you can't deny that from the
It
trailer,
looks
it
beautiful.
looks stunning. So just if the
Yeah.
movie delivers, then yeah, I think it could get in here easily. So I have that currently in its place.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. So you don't have Nickel Boys getting nominated?
Again, I have the same caveat that I had before. I got to see
Yeah.
the movie right now because they're like the most. If it wasn't for you reminding me that this movie's coming out, I would forget that
No,
this
that's
movie's
fair.
in the
I will
season.
keep reminding everyone. I
Yes.
will be its
So
number one fan.
until because really, again, what I'm worried about is that this could be another If Beale Street Could Talk, a very well respected, well regarded film that maybe doesn't jive with how the Academy wants to have a discussion about race, and then doesn't get in. I could see that being the path for this movie, and I
I
would
don't
hate it if that was
I
the
think
case. But right
Amazon
now, I
MGM
need
is gonna
people to talk about this movie. Nobody
well,
is
they're
talking
not gonna
about
talk about it right now. No one's talking about a lot of these films because they haven't like people
it.
aren't
People are
really
talking about The
talking.
Brutalist. The Brutalist
Yeah,
is a movie that has not left the conversation despite it having a later release date.
that's fair.
Um,
But
and
I think
maybe it's because there are no
Amazon
real
MGM,
scars to it. Maybe that's part of it. But
maybe. MGM's gonna really push for it though. That's
yeah,
their big horse in this race.
yeah.
So
And then yes,
yeah.
Nathan Mitchell. Listen, whatever you feel about the movie, the one below. Um, whatever you
I'm rooting
feel
for
about the movie,
challengers,
I
not
do
Joker.
think Joker 2 cinematography was, exceptional. And it would be crazy if it got like one nomination. It was for this, but I'm not so sure about that. We'll see.
Yeah, yeah,
I
but
think
I
I think
agree.
when we talk about um, like the movies that like have the premature of like like failure on them and that hurts them, Joker 2 will
Joker's
definitely would be
no
wearing that, unfortunately.
Joker's getting absolutely nothing. But
Yeah,
yeah, I do think Nickel Boys is the achievement of the year in terms of cinematography. Kind of like Zone of Interest was a sound achievement, and that ended up winning just because
yeah,
of how incredible it was. So
yeah. We'll
I
see.
can see it.
I will
Um,
say though, because you were dead right on Joker, so I will give you your flowers on that.
thank you.
However, if
You got
if the
Wicked.
universe balanced so that Joker 2 fell, so Wicked could, be top tier contender for Best Picture, I will take that.
That's perfect. We balance each other out
We
there.
balance each
We
other out.
yeah,
Perfectly balanced, as all things should be.
exactly.
All right.
Editing. Dune. I think Dune is just going to win that. I think it'll be the
Mhm.
sound editing correlation. I don't think the editing in Anora is super showy. I do think it lags a little bit in the second act. I don't know. It could just win if it ends up being a sweeper, but I don't feel great about that. The Brutalist, it's 3 hours. I can't speak to editing, but it's 3.5 hours. But I guess I
You
don't
feel
know.
it. At least I did.
You felt it. Okay. Yeah, especially in the second act, it seems like people really feel it.
Oh,
Amelia Perez.
it's funny. The second act, I think, just because Felicity Jones doesn't really have a presence in the first act, and she does in the second.
Okay.
But, like I enjoyed maybe the second act more because I was like, "Ooh, Felicity
Yeah.
Jones, work, girl."
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I know that. We'll see. We'll see how that one goes. But I agree with you that Dune and Brutalist are up there. I don't
Yeah.
have a Nora right now in my top five.
Interesting. Interesting.
Because I think the edit is so different in the second half compared to the first half.
It is very different. Yeah.
And I wonder if people will have issues like that. The people who have an issue with the pacing will then take it out on this category. It's kind of what I'm
Maybe.
thinking.
I feel like it'll just be a strong enough contender. Usually in this category, it's usually around the top 4 or 5 in picture, and sometimes
Yeah.
a surprise one like a Tick Tick Boom ends up getting in, which is, in my opinion, challengers this year. I'm willing it into existence. The editing in that is top tier. I think maybe it's still my favorite editing of the year. The way it jumps back and forth with time, the editing during the tennis scenes. I think I can see it. It's very showy. I think I can see it being a passion pick and getting in that 5th spot, but that's probably me just manifesting it. Amelia Press, it's a musical. Got a lot of sound design. It's got some
Mhm.
shooting. It's well edited. I can also see Conclave. That makes sense. It's a thriller-esque film, so it could easily just get in there. Nickel Boys is incredibly edited. If I have a winning picture, I should probably just get rid of challengers and put Nickel Boys in there. But
Yeah.
who knows? Stuff doesn't make sense right now. But I can totally, if I think it's winning picture, I should have it in there. So maybe I'll knock out Amelia Press instead. But yeah, the editing in that film is great. It flies by. Even though it's very meditative, it's very well paced. A Complete Unknown. If it's getting in picture, it's got to get some other tech categories. So I think this would maybe be it. Bohemian Rhapsody won this category, and then The Substance is very well edited. But once again, I'm not committing to that yet. If it's in picture, I would put it in editing.
Yeah. Well, Substance and Challengers would be wonderful. Challengers is
That
currently
would
what I
be
would
great.
pick to win. And
Yeah,
when we do our little awards video, you might see it pop up in a number of categories.
a lot of
Um,
categories.
but I think right now, like it's the type of nomination I would love. And listen, last year Zone of Interest got into sound, so like it can be done where like this and won, so it can be this crazy thing where like yes, they're paying attention, but also Zone of Interest was a Best Picture nominee, and your Tick Tick Boom parallel. Tick Tick Boom was probably the 11 in picture that year.
Probably.
It was right on top.
Challengers could be this year. Who knows?
Okay.
If it gets screenplay, score, editing.
Yeah. Right now, I'm going to be surprised if Challengers gets
Yeah,
anything. But
really.
I
Okay.
would be a happy surprise. Um, I agree with Dune. We talked about Honora. I think Honora could get in. It's my number 6, but I just feel like there's often like one that everybody thinks is gonna miss, that everybody's gonna get in and misses. And I think that one to me is the least flashy. And if it's not
Okay.
winning picture, I don't like I could see it slip.
Yeah,
Um,
that's fair.
and then I'm really toying with Amelia Perez because I think because it's a musical, I think it benefits. Um,
Hmm.
so and it is flashy, so I'll
It's
keep
fine.
that in there. So I have Dune, Brutalist, Amelia Perez. I'm gonna put in Conclave
Yeah,
because I think that is the most consistently like packaged movie. It's very tense. It is a thriller in some ways. You know, it has
it
that
is. Yeah,
thriller built or structure, and I think that's achieved through the editing. And I've seen it twice, and I even the second time, like my mom wanted to go, and I was like, all right, I'll see it again. Like I liked it
hmm,
the first time, and I was totally brought back into the story, and I really credit the editing.
it's
Great deal.
entertaining. Yeah,
Yeah, and actually, it jumped from like one of my like honorable mentions of the year, and like jumped into my top 5. So I really enjoyed
nice.
Conclave a lot. Um, and then again, Nickel Boys, same caveat. I have to see it right now. I'm not sensing it. The Substance again could very well. Right now, just because again, the same logic for Amelia Perez, it's a musical, and I think because it's a top contender for picture, and the same way that you have Nickel Boys, I'm going to put Wicked in
Interesting. Yeah,
for right now.
I can
Uh,
see that. That makes sense.
yeah.
It is long. It's
Mhm.
2 hours and 40 minutes, but maybe you
Which
don't feel it.
sometimes we and listen, I knew the musical, so like I kind of had a feel for the piece. I'm interested to see if
I know nothing
people
about this film.
didn't who don't know the musical how they feel of the runtime. But I remember checking my watch, and I thought we were like 25 minutes in, 20 minutes in, and we were an hour. I was like, "What the hell?
Nice.
What special sauce does this movie have?" It
Yeah,
moves very well, at least for me. And so I think I'm just going to go with my my gut on this one and just be like, if
yeah,
editing is meant to blur time, that movie definitely did it for me.
yeah. And if it's a top 5 contender, I can totally see it. It does need to get a decent number of tech categories to be a picture contender. So
You mean
I
a
could see
picture
it. It does seem kind
winner
of like
or a picture contender?
both.
What do
I
you mean?
think for it to get into
Because do you
either.
have it currently in? Because I feel like we
I
haven't had this
do.
conversation. All right,
I
so
do. I don't think it's anywhere close to winning. I still compare it more to a Barbie than anything, which
mhm,
didn't get editing, but we'll
sure.
see.
Yeah. I really want to know because I think Barbie, listen, Barbie at its DNA was a comedy. And that's not what Wicked is. I know it's a musical comedy,
Mhm.
but Wicked, I think, has loftier ambitions. Um, and I'm really interested to see, like, are they going to lean into the musical side? Because if they do, then I think it could show up in a lot of these texts that like other movies, popular movies, didn't. We just haven't had a popular musical in a very long time, so it's kind of hard to.
In a minute.
What box do we compartmentalize Wicked's potential pathway? Because I mean, we're going back to like the 2000s, really, like or Les Mis. But Les Mis was such a because the problem with Les Mis is the
Very
musical
different
fans
tone.
didn't like it. So
Yeah.
that's I don't see that happening with Wicked. I think the musical fans are going to give it the support it needs. So we're in a very interesting space.
We are. If Cats was a big hit, maybe we'd know, but it
Yeah.
wasn't. Yeah.
To Ramon's point, yes, Wonka was popular, but Wonka was not considered a contender in the way that Wicked is. So it's a little different. I mean, there's been popular musicals, of course, but not ones that cross over in this way. You know, a lot of the Disney musicals, you know, Frozen, of course, is one of the most popular movies of all time.
Yeah.
That wasn't considered a Best Picture frontrunner.
Moana, all that stuff.
I'm trying to think of a live
yeah.
action. Greatest Showman. Greatest Showman would be. I would put
Yeah.
Wonka in the Greatest Showman category. I would not put them in the and Mary Poppins Returns. I would not put them in the La La Land Chicago category, which I think Wicked is firmly stating their case that they should be in that category.
Yeah, and Wicked also has the same editor. Speaking of Tick Tick Boom, so we'll see. Production design. Finally, I'm giving Wicked something. I really thought it was going to be Gladiator II for so long, but I still think looking at both of the films and the trailers, I think the production design in Gladiator looks better in my opinion. They built Rome. I do think an issue for Wicked is the production design looks good. I think an issue for this film will be, for some reason, the color grading and the backlighting and all that stuff doesn't really make it look as good as it probably should. But I still think Nathan Crowley has like 6 or 7 nominations for production design.
Has he never won?
He's never won. So it's a good narrative. So I feel like he'll probably end up winning.
I will say it was funny. I was trying to figure out why, because even like songs like Popular, which in the show, the lighting would make you think it's like night, maybe on the verge of morning, but they said it in the movie of morning. I think that has to do with wanting to keep it PG and keeping it like family friendly for like young kids, because if scenes are in daytime, I think it's better. That was just my gut thing, because like, it is odd how many of the scenes are like at like not at nighttime, when that would maybe be more dramatically impactful. I have a feeling that's maybe why they did it, or maybe it was just, you know, stylistic choice. Yeah, go. You got to see the movie. There's a lot of sets that they're not shown in the trailer.
I'm sure. Yeah.
They're just starting to eke out, and I'm like, hold. I mean, yes, they built Rome for Gladiator, but they built Emerald City for Wicked and Shiz. And like every set, I'm just like, you built this. And I think this will have a really good bake off. Like when they actually have to show off what they built. Yeah. I mean, the 9 million tulips alone that they built, that they planted in the ground, that should get them the win.
Yeah, that's impressive. So yeah, I think that's a pretty easy win for it. Brutalist, it's about an architect, it's about production design. So probably Dune Part 2, it got on for the first one. Did it? I think it. No, it didn't. Did it win for the first one?
No, it won.
It did win.
It lost costume design to Cruella.
That's what it was. Yeah. And then Conclave, they obviously not allowed to shoot in what. In the Vatican, so they rebuilt it, and they did a very good job rebuilding it. In that place
Italy,
where the
right?
is, yeah, that guy. And I think that's a very good recreation of it. I felt like they were at the Vatican. So, and then the other stuff, Blitz, I don't believe in, but maybe the Nosferatu.
Good production design. Maybe. Again, as it's seemingly only fan.
You're the only Blitz
production
fan.
design. I currently have Nosferatu in my 5th spot. I think Conclave is a very low potential. Sort of like, didn't Charles Chicago 7 get a production design nomination? Am I remembering that?
That was COVID year. I don't think so.
I know, but maybe. Like,
I don't think it did.
I always get worried with those sort of nominations. But yeah, I think in a world where like the 2 popes didn't get in, and that wasn't the COVID year, that was 2019. Like and I get it, Conclave is a bigger contender, but like, right now I have Nosferatu. I think that's more obvious production design, and if it's getting in, if they take it seriously, then I think it gets in these couple of categories.
Yeah, I could totally see that. I think most of the tech categories get I think like production design, costume design, visual effects, sound, all that stuff. Most of the tech categories, not all of them. Like score doesn't get one, original song doesn't.
The score is also the thing about score. I feel like the ones that get the bakes off are the ones that you can't send the materials to. Like score, you send the soundtrack to the people who can vote. I remember, I think with Les Mis,
show the work.
Les Mis, they sent like iPods with the soundtrack to like certain voters. I think with Critics' Choice and Golden Globes, maybe. But like a lot of these other categories, how like you want to show off like stuff that's in the background, you know. So
Mhm.
that's I'd love to go into a bake off would be like so cool. That's like
It
that'd be
seems fun. Yeah. It seems then they're very helpful for at least nominations in terms of showing the work that was done.
Mhm.
So, speaking of bake-offs, costume design will have one. Also, speaking of Wicked, I think that's an easy win for it. I mean, the costumes look great. I don't really see the main competitor is Gladiator, and it seems like there's more unique and varied costumes in Wicked than there is in Gladiator. So,
Mhm.
seems
Just the
like an easy win.
ensembles. I mean, Chu will shoot in these wide shots, and there'll be like 50 people at one point in a frame. It's like they all have different costumes. I'm just like, how the
Yeah.
hell? And also, Paul Tazwell, I think is how you say his name.
Okay.
He, I believe, he did West Side Story, the Spielberg
Mhm.
movie, and I believe he did the costumes for Hamilton on Broadway.
Oh,
So he has a
nice.
lot of credibility. And I think it would be great. I'm actually wearing one of his pants that he did for the Wicked.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
because on the back of the tag it says like Paul Tazwell Collection Wicked, and so
Hmm.
I'm wearing a costume designer that we're talking about.
A future a future Oscar winner.
Oscar winner. Yeah, I honestly think this is the most likely win that it will have.
Yeah, this seems pretty locked up in my opinion. Dune, it'll get nominated again, even though I still feel it. That's probably mostly for Florence Pugh. Um, Blitz, I think what's her name? She's a very well-known costume designer. Did Blitz, and that's why I put it in here. Who's like the well-known costume designer? What's her name? I feel
Sandy
like it's her.
Powell,
No, it's the other one. Maybe the chat will tell me, but I know it's a name.
Colleen
And
Atwood. Who
then
are you going for? I can give you
I don't
names.
know. The chat will say it at some point, I'm sure. Maria has gowns, beautiful gowns, so I think they'll probably get in there too. And then there it is,
Jacqueline
Jacqueline
Durant.
Durant.
I
Yeah, there we go. See, the chat can
probably would have
always
been
help
next
us
on my
out.
list if I thought about it.
Yeah, the third one. Yeah, so that's why I have it in there. Yeah, and then Conclave, it's they're kind of just wearing cardinal stuff, so who knows? And then Nosferatu, maybe. I'm not gonna put that. If I put that in too many tech categories, then I feel like I'm like that's might be like a Nightmare Alley kind of thing where it's like okay maybe it just should be in picture then. So
Yeah, I mean it could. I mean, let me look at my picture. Um,
do you have it in costume design?
what Nosferatu? No,
Yeah,
I actually this is the first category that we have the same five.
awesome.
Um,
First time.
but like I could see a world where Complete Unknown misses, and I still have Blitz in there, and
Oh
that
yeah.
misses, and maybe
Oh wow.
Nosferatu does get into that number
We
10.
have different best picture predictions for sure.
We
Because I
definitely
don't know
do.
either of
I should
those.
probably. I'm seeing a real pain. This I have so many Wicked screenings in the next week with so many different people.
Yeah.
So if I can steal away to a real pain, I will.
Yeah,
And then maybe that jumps up. That
I
seems
think
like a
so.
very small little fave. But we have a lot of small little
It
faves. I mean,
is. It's
thing.
small.
I mean, what like it or not, The Brutalist is a small movie. I don't know why I said like it or not, as if you have to accept that it. But like it is,
I'm
it's a
interested to see.
smaller movie. So I'll be
Yeah.
curious to see. Again, picture this season is so much fun because it is
It's
so. I feel like it's
impossible.
a gift after the Oppenheimer,
That
March that
last
we
year
went
was so
from July to May, February
yeah.
with. Um, also,
Balance each other out.
also, we just have to talk about it. There is a world where Robert Downey Jr. gives an Oscar to Ariana Grande, and if that happens, I think my mind will
That's not
explode.
happening. She's not winning. God,
You see the
she's
movie, but
not
come back
winning.
to me.
I don't think so. I think the nomination is the win for Ariana Grande. I think if they're giving a musical performance a win, I think they'll
I
give
know
it to
you're
the
still you're
acting
still on
veteran
Anjanou
Zoe
Ellis probably
Saldana.
with Nickel Boys, so I grant you that everybody
Yeah.
else. I don't think as many people have. For me, she has to top Zoe Saldana, which is I think is more likely for me than you having to push down Anjanou Ellis. So I get that.
Oh,
Um,
I like I think Zoe Saldana is still winning, but I think Anjanou Ellis is
we'll see.
one of
I'm
the best
really
performances.
I was really surprised how divisive Amelia Perez is turning out to be. I did not anticipate that it would be like
Yeah, but I
this.
think that might. I think, like we said, that might just be the film Twitter bubble. I'm
Yeah,
sure. I think most people will enjoy it. And she's Zoe Saldana, and she's like singing and crying and dancing.
I
I feel
agree.
like it's
I bet.
showy
Listen,
enough.
I was here saying Kirsten Dunst is of course going to win Best Supporting Actress, and then look what happened. Ariana DeBose came out of nowhere.
Ariane,
Musical
yeah,
performance, supporting actress. We talk. I know Zoe Saldana is also a musical performance, but it's very different musical performances.
it is. It's an interesting musical for sure.
Oh, God.
Yeah, we'll see. We shall see. Makeup and hairstyling. This is where I have the substance winning something. I think the substance could end up being like RRR, where all of its passion ends up in one of the below the line categories here for the substance, and for makeup and hairstyling. And I think it's undeniably, I think the best makeup and hairstyling this year, and it's the best makeup of the year because that's what this category should just be called makeup because they don't care about hairstyling at all.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that's going to win. The Elizasu stuff is incredible. I think that's an easy win for it, honestly. Because looking at the competition, Beetlejuice will be nominated. I
Yeah.
don't think that's a winning kind of film, but it's showy makeup. Dune Part Two, you got the Barons and such.
Yeah. Listen, after Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them not only became the first Harry Potter movie to win an Oscar, but won costume design over La La Land, the idea that you have to be the right movie, not necessarily always the case.
That's fair. That's fair. But I think if Substance wasn't here, I'd probably honestly have Beetlejuice winning.
Mhm.
But it is here. And then A Different Man, there's some showy makeup in that film for sure that I think if they see it could get in. It seems like something the makeup branch would like. And the makeup branch doesn't always. The makeup branch, like we just said, sometimes goes on their own limb and does their own stuff. Then Nosferatu, we haven't really seen him, but from the reactions, it seems like Bill Skarsgård has a very makeup-y, interesting look for Nosferatu. So I've got it in there. That's the only nomination I think I have for it. Emilia Perez, I'm really tempted to put in there because there seems to be really advertising the transition of Carla's character before and after. So that is
Yeah,
some
but
good
I
makeup.
also
But
think
that's really it.
they're gonna really walk into. I don't know. I
They're
think
already the whole film is already in bad,
I get
in
it,
my
but I
opinion,
think
in bad
I
territory in
I
terms of
just
that.
that feels like a minefield for the voters to have to, like, go
Oh yeah.
through. I think it could, but I don't know. I think they might just have everything to do with that performance and the transition and the I think they're just gonna give to Carla Sofia Gasson an actress. That's just gonna be where that support for that element of the movie goes. I don't know if makeup and
Mhm.
hairstyling. I don't know. Because I think the
I
thing
agree.
about it is that I think it would promote the wrong message that, transitioning is just like a costume change, and I don't think they wanna do that.
The film has so many bad messages in my opinion, but yes. And then
We
Chris
have to
Hemsworth
at
for
one point, we
period.
have to do it's funny now because I think back because I rewatched Don't Look Up in the last week, for no particular reason, and I
Timely
ended up liking the movie a lot more than I did the first time, and I remember when we did our little debate
debate.
3 years ago
I
in
forget
the
where I even went. I don't think I was a
first
fan of it.
season.
Maybe I was. I
I
think
think
I
you
was
were
in
in
the
the
middle.
middle. You were
Yeah,
the
I was
barometer.
the middle ground.
Yeah, but I was thinking back, it's like, we should do that again because there's so many movies that we disagree on. What I think is crazy is that I always thought it was gonna be Wicked or Joker. I thought those were gonna be the movies that I would have to, like,
Nope.
champion crazy, but people seem to be on my side for those movies.
Yeah, for sure. It's interesting. Amelia Perez. And then A Complete Unknown. I don't know. He's Bob Dylan, but it's kind of just Timothy Chalamet. Edward Norton seems to have a little something going on, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
Um, so I have Dune, I have The Substance, I have Beetlejuice, I have Nosferatu. I'm feeling a different man. I don't know why. It's also a movie that I have I'm not a big fan of this movie, and so it's
Okay.
hard for me to,
I just
like,
need to see it.
consider it in the same way. Um, and so I don't currently have it in there. We'll see. Amelia Perez, maybe if they go down that path. I think just right now, I understand that it's very simple makeup, but in the same way that Joker gets nominated for one costume and costume design, I think
Yeah.
the fact that you're one of your
She's
best
just
actor
green though.
contenders is green and she's the lead. I do think that.
But she's
If,
just green.
yeah, but look at these other movies like Beetlejuice, and even Nosferatu. Like, are we really going to say that these movies have, like, better chances than a movie that is in the top
No, but
five?
the makeup branch, more so than any other branch, in my opinion, doesn't really care about how strong your film is in Best Picture. Suicide Squad won
That's
this
fair.
category, so I don't think they really care.
That's fair. But I right now, I just think I feel like there's a more likely world where Wicked gets in and a different man does it. I don't know.
Maybe.
That's where I am right
We'll
now.
see. Yeah, fair enough. I should probably have it listed. I think I forgot about that. But she's just green. And the hairstyling seems to be good. But we'll see.
Mhm.
Moving on, visual effects. This is my same five that I think I had before the festivals. So Dune is obviously winning. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. The Apes movies they'll never win, but they'll always be nominated. Gladiator II, Napoleon got in. It's fine. There's sharks and monkeys and stuff.
God,
Mufasa.
Napoleon got.
Napoleon got in, and I predicted that.
Oh, I know, I
Little
know.
pat on the back.
I think I predicted it too, but I didn't want to. I didn't want to do
Mm,
that.
yeah.
Come on,
Mufasa.
Ridley, I'm
It
rooting for
doesn't.
you.
Yeah, Mufasa doesn't look as good for some reason, in my opinion, as The Lion King. So we'll have to see. It's still impressive visual effects, but if it is decently reviewed and does well, I think it'll still get in there. It's crazy how Barry Jenkins made that movie. Then Twisters. The Twisters looked good. I think people like that film. I don't know about the visual effects in Wicked. I think you can probably speak to that. And then Alien Romulus
Yeah,
has good visual effects, but I think it's a little
great visual
more
effects, but I
horror.
don't think they're gonna touch that with a
They're
10-foot
gonna go
pole.
for it. No,
Neither will they. They won't touch Better Man with a 20-foot pole.
no, that's
I agree
interesting
with
visual effects.
your 4. I have
Okay.
Twisters at number 6, just because Twisters feels like Jurassic World, like the Universal movie that came out during the
Mhm.
summer, and it has visual effects that we've seen before and isn't this popcorn movie. I just don't see it happening. And again, I'm gonna go fall back on Wicked is going to be a Best Picture contender, so I think that will get it in. Visual effects are actually pretty good, and it's funny because there's probably a lot of things that people think are visual effects that aren't, like the train. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think that it's wondrous. The scale of it, when she's flying around at the end of that movie, man, it delivers. So yeah, I mean, I have it in there and in place of Twisters, but then I agree with the other 4 that you have. I have
yeah.
Mufasa in there because I just think that Jungle Book winning and Lion King, like, there's a track record for this sort of movie getting in, and I really don't know what's going to happen Mufasa critically. It could
I
be
don't
better.
know.
It could be
It's
like,
Barry Jenkins,
yeah,
but the trailers look terrible. It looks so
yeah,
bad.
I don't know what to make of that. I really don't.
Me
So
either.
right now I have it in number 5 because it could be on the bubble. So we'll see.
Yeah, this is an interesting point. If we replaced Twisters with Wicked, then 4 of the 5 nominees would be have monkey VFX. So,
Wait,
or Better Man. So,
yeah, Better Man. Wait, what are the Gladiator has monkey? Yeah, I guess Gladiator has monkeys.
yeah, they got the monkeys in the pit.
Yeah, and then
Mufasa's
Kingdom,
got
of course.
Rafiki.
Mufasa's got Rafiki, and
Yeah,
then yeah, okay.
lots of monkeys this year. If you want to get a visual effects nomination, put a monkey in there.
If
Seems
you want to
like
get a visual effects nomination, put a creature in it that is so similar to humans that it's easy to animate.
exactly, and people will be
You
amazed
cracked
by
it.
it.
Oh God.
We have. Um, Sound. Dune. I think once again that editing sound correlation I feel like will be there. Gladiator. It just makes sense, honestly. I don't really need to
Yeah.
explain it. Wicked, it's a musical. Same thing with Amelia Perez, a musical and Best Picture with
Mhm.
some action scenes. It'll get in there. And then
Yeah.
Blitz. I haven't seen the film, but people seem to like the sound design with all the war stuff. People seem to say it's a really loud film, but that seems to
Oh,
help in sound.
yes, it is.
Like it almost too loud, but who knows?
Uh, it's took me off guard for sure, but it's good.
Memorable.
It's good. Yeah, I agree with you. I have the same 5. I have Dune winning.
Okay.
I like you're always great with the editing sound
It
corollary. So
makes it stops sometimes, but it makes sense most years.
yeah. Yeah, it's weird. I'm just realizing we have 2 action musicals. When have when have we ever
We
had
do.
that before?
We
And
do.
there are a couple action scenes. There's one like 5-minute
She's
action
flying
scene.
on a broom with monkeys after her, right?
Oh yes, that is true. But there's the yeah. So it's good sound. Yeah, I think it gets in.
Yeah. And
Um,
then yeah, that makes sense. A Complete Unknown, it's a musical thing. I
yeah,
just if I had it in picture, I'd probably need to fit it in some of these tech categories, but I don't right now, so I don't need to do that. Civil War has great sound design. I love it. It's becoming a little more of a relevant film as of lately. So it could happen. It could be a passion pick. Like the Sound Branch sometimes just like they did Mission Impossible last year. Sometimes they just like do different things. So maybe in Conclave there's an explosion and his sound goes out. So who knows?
if they got nominated for that one moment.
That's
Oh
what they
my
would
god!
probably
I told my
say.
mom when we went on Tuesday, I was like, "Close your ears for the next minute."
Yeah.
Just
Is
watch
that
like this, and there's
is
like,
that what all of Blitz is like? Yeah.
well, Blitz, at least you can prepare yourself. I would
You
rather,
know there's gonna be bombs. Yeah.
though Blitz does have the first moment of the movie is pretty like, oh, and I saw it like in a again sold out theater in Lincoln Center, so it was loud.
Mm, nice.
Um, all right, any more?
Moving on, we've got
Oh yeah,
Score. I think the Brutalist is winning. It seems like even from the trailer, like the score is very good. Conclave, it's Bertelman who has his very showy scores. It's good in the film. I like it more than what he. I like it more than that for sure. There are still moments in the film where it's like, okay, you could be a little more subtle with that, but it's memorable. Dune, we don't know if it's eligible yet. Like it was said, it wasn't eligible, but now apparently it is eligible. So I'm just putting it in there for now until we know
yeah.
completely. So yeah. Challengers, best score of the year. I'm keeping it in there. It's Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross did 2 of the best scores of the year between this and Queer. Queer's score is very good, but I think this is a much more memorable score. And The Room Next Door. I listened to the score. It's very good. I still need to see the film, but I listened to the score, and it's Alberto Iglesias. He's gotten in before for Almodovar films. Emilia Perez is a musical, but I don't know about score,
Yes, yes, it
honestly.
is.
It is a musical for sure, but I don't know about score. I don't know. I feel like I don't remember a lot about that film's songs
Yeah,
or score.
I can't pick out the score. But then you have movies like Mary Poppins Returns that gets into score. It's like, really? How can you differentiate that from the songs? So we'll see. I agree with you right now. I have it at number 6. I have Conclave at 1 because I think that it's a presence in the movie and it's more identifiable. But Brutalist is a strong 2. I think this is the challenger's spot you can count on.
Thank you.
At Room
Yes.
Next Door, and then I have The Wild Robot because I think in a world where that maybe wins animated feature, I think that this could be another
I'm not
nomination.
willing to do, but like Spider-Verse, Boy and the Heron. What was the other ones like
This is a
last the year
weaker
before?
year. You have to. There are certain things that are going to happen this year that
No,
will
but
not have
I'm
happened.
just not going to give an animated film anything outside of animated until I see it happen again because they just
Didn't
ignore
Encanto
it.
get original score
That
nomination or
was
no?
a musical, though. Yeah, it
That's
did.
true. That's true.
What was the one in 2022? Pinocchio. Everyone thought that was going to get a score nomination or a
Yeah,
song
but
nomination.
Alexander Desplat has had his day in the sun.
That's fair.
I'll never
Yeah.
forget the when Chris Pine was announcing the 2015 Oscar nominations for the films released in 2014, and he went Alexander Desplat for The Grand Budapest Hotel, Alexander Desplat for The Imitation Game, and everybody started laughing. It
Yeah.
was so funny.
He's had his moment. I should mention this Nickel Boy score is incredible. I should have it at 8 or 9 here. I think it's so good. I should definitely have it in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's
I'm
a
really
bonus item.
struggling with the music this year. Like really
It's a
struggling.
weird year. It is a weird year for this category and the next one. Original
Oh,
song is really weird.
I have
I think El
no
Mal
idea.
is. I think between the two songs that they're pushing, right? We don't have like for sure which one we know they're for sure pushing, but I like El Mal more than Mi Camino, but it seems like they might switch between the
What
other.
is what? Who sang El Camino?
Mi Camino is Selena Gomez's song.
Oh, me. Okay, I have. It says L
Yeah.
on
Oh, it
the
might be L. I think it's L or me.
that the
I think
same.
those
Yeah,
two
I
genre.
don't. I think El Mal just because Zoe Saldana is. I that's the crossover, so I have El Mal doing
Yeah,
better. Um, but I only have Amelia Perez getting in once. I don't think it's going to get in twice.
that's fair. I just didn't know what else to do. Like, obviously, you got your Diane Warren slot with the Journey 688, obviously, so that's
Oh,
going to get
that's what
in.
that is. Okay, maybe. Yeah. Okay.
You should
All
put
right.
that in
Never
if you
mind.
don't
That's
have it
how it is.
there. Yeah,
All right. So we agree
yeah,
on that. I have
yeah.
no idea what to do with Piece by Piece because it's like it's Morgan
I don't think it's
Neville,
getting a song.
but and it's Pharrell Williams, but like nobody's talking about it. I'm like, well, why? Like, does that? I just don't know what to do. Because I'm like, Wild Robot could get in there, Piece by Piece could get in there, Moana 2 could get in there. Um, I there's a song in Blitz that I liked, but again, apparently nobody
Oh
really.
yeah, the Saoirse Ronan song,
Yeah,
Winter's Coat.
oh,
Yeah,
that's actually in the movie. So I really don't. Can we come back to this category in a couple months?
we should. Yeah, this is hard to pick out. So I've got Elmal, Diane Warren, Mi Camino. Like a Bird, I feel like is one that won't hit a bunch of precursors, but ends up like we've seen in the last few years, like with the Killers of the Flower Moon song, the Everything Everywhere song. There's one that doesn't do well at precursors, but a strong best picture film still gets a song in there. That's a surprise. It's a good song. It's honestly my favorite of any of these songs here. I also like Harper and We'll Go West from Will and Harper. I think that's a good song. It's Kristen Wiig singing it. So I put that in there, I guess. Once again, I'm not going to give an animated film anything, so I don't have The Wild Robot or Moana 2 in here. And then Mufasa does have Lin-Manuel making songs for it, but the trailer songs do not sound very good, so I'm not going to do that. So weird category. So
Very real.
we'll see. And then quickly, animated. This is the same 5 that everyone has had for forever. Wild Robot is winning. Inside Out 2, Flow, Wallace and Gromit, Memoir of a Snail. I don't really see anything else
Yeah,
happening here.
I saw Memoir of a Snail, by the way, and it was
Did you
brilliant.
like it?
Really enjoyed it. Also,
Nice.
Sarah Snook is
She's in
so
it.
good. She is this like the.
She's the snail.
I mean, they're not actually snails. She's a
Oh,
human who has like what
the
I am
show.
for Wicked. This character is for snails.
Oh, for snails.
Um,
Okay.
but like I was like hearing the voice, I was like, who is this? And I find out it's Sarah Snook. I'm like, are you kidding me? Yeah,
Mhm.
she's brilliant. She's because it is 90 minutes straight of narration. Like she's narrating the
Oh
entire
wow.
movie, and I never got tired of it. And I hate narration.
Nice.
Never got tired of it. She's brilliant in the movie. Like
Nice.
if there was a best like voiceover performance category, Maya Hawke would probably win. Because surprise, surprise, I still think that she should be a supporting actress nomination for Inside Out 2. That's just
Really? Wow.
but Sarah Snook would be right there. She's so good in this movie.
Every of the main kids has a Oscar contender this year, a little bit. So good for them.
But poor Connor.
Yeah, no, not Connor. He's always forgotten.
Oh God.
Sorry. Yeah, and I'll just shout, Flow is the best animated film of the year. It's incredible. Go see it when it releases. I think they're giving a pretty wide release in November,
Mhm.
later. So go check it out, people. It's great. International.
Hang on,
Oh,
real
it's
quick.
pretty,
What
yeah.
if Wild Robot wins? Is this the
Mhm.
longest period between Disney wins in this category?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Because we had Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio, and then we had The
Oh,
Boy
it
and
is
the
for sure. Yeah.
Heron, and then The Wild Robot. Like, I don't think we've ever gone like 4
3 years.
years in between Disney wins. That'd be really interesting.
Yeah, no, we definitely haven't because there's only been like a few.
And
So,
what
and they were
3
spread out.
different movies from such different corners of the globe. That's really
Disney
exciting.
needs to step up their game. They need to step up their
Well, I
game
mean, Inside
because
Out 2 is fantastic. I
it's a
think
good
that
movie.
I would not lump that in with, the wishes of the world and the strange worlds, Inside Out
No,
2 is
no.
exceptional. And if it won, I wouldn't be surprised or would be upset. I think to me, it's I love Inside Out so much. So
It's the
for me,
most
it's
seen film of the year,
yeah,
so
top five
definitely helps.
Pixar. Yes, it is that it's crazy. That is the most seen movie there.
It's
Until Wicked.
huge. Yeah. I don't think so. Wicked is not
Yeah.
cracking the Billy, but we'll
I
see.
don't think it'll have the worldwide gross, but I could see it doing well domestically if it plays throughout.
Mhm.
If Mufasa underperforms, then I think it could play through January.
Oh, yeah.
So
The
we'll see.
winter films, the December films aren't strong this year, so for
Yeah.
sure. Um,
It's funny. It is funny.
International.
November, what usually happens in December, we're getting in November this year.
We
Uh,
are. So
we
they should
got
have good legs.
nothing last year. I mean, sorry, Wonka stands, but like that was not at the level of Avatar and Star Wars and Spider-Man: No Way Home.
No. We'll have Avatar next year, though. I'm so excited. Third Best Picture nomination coming.
Crazy.
International feature. Amelia Perez is obviously winning this. It's going to be the only Best Picture film in here. So yeah, that'll win. See the Sacred Fig will be nominated. I'm Still Here will be nominated. That's an easy top 3 there. Girl with the Needle, I feel pretty good about it. It's gotten good reviews. It's movie. It's got some great cinematography from what I've seen, and then I've heard a lot of buzz about Vermiglio, as well as How to Make Millions Before Grandma Dies. So I'm between those two for that last spot, but this is another category where it's like we'll know more later on. It's really hard to talk about.
Mhm.
Um, I assume you agree with that.
Yeah, I think this is again a lot of these movies we have to wait like to see them start to
Yeah,
get other nominations and critics
well,
groups
shortlisted for yeah,
shortlisted. But yeah, Amelia Perez at one makes sense.
yeah. And then the hardest one to do is documentary. Who knows? No Other Land. It seems very topical, but it doesn't have a distributor, so I don't know. Sugarcane, Daughters, Black Box Diaries, and Dahomey is what I have. It's kind of like a shot in the dark right now. I haven't seen any of these films. Most people haven't seen any of these films. The documentary category is notoriously hard to predict in terms of obviously whatever is the front runner is probably not going to be
It's
nominated.
funny, the
So
category that nobody sees before the nominations is the hardest to predict. Who would have thought?
yeah, yeah. So yeah, that's what I've got right now. Who knows? I would love to see Will and Harper get in, but once again, that's a celebrity doc. So I don't know. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Any final thoughts? We've covered.
Pretty much it. We've been doing this for like almost an hour and a half.
Yeah. Nickel Boys. Go see it when it comes out.
I know. I continue to feel bad that the movies that I root for end up doing very well, and the movies that you root for, more likely than not,
You,
end up disappointing
yeah.
you.
You got a huge movie last year. Yeah.
I
And you've
did.
got Wicked this year.
I'm
But
trying to
who
think.
knows? Maybe if I'm right,
You
Nickel
weren't on the
Boys.
Everything Everywhere bandwagon the same way that some people were,
I liked it, but I wasn't as like in love with it as I was on the Tar bandwagon. And that
as
didn't
was
win a
I.
single Oscar.
Yeah. Which again is why, just to circle back, and I'll keep saying this, I'm gonna have to Brutalist has to prove to me it's not another Tar. Very well respected, erudite, intellectual movie. It's
That
gonna have to
doesn't win.
prove that to me.
It will
And
win
I've
something.
not seen it. It will win. I think it'll win more than Tar because I think The Craft is more on its side. And again, it's a weaker year. If Tar was up in this year, I think maybe Tar would have won an Oscar. Maybe definitely Best Actress. But
Yeah, for sure.
I'm waiting for The Brutalist to prove to me that it is not a Tar.
Yeah, that's fair. It seems very similar vibes, and it seems like I'm interested to see how I feel about it because you seem mixed on it, but we both love Tar,
Mhm.
so
I could see
we'll
me
see.
going back into it. I think it's a lot on first viewing to take in because it's an endurance test to sit there for 3.5 hours. And maybe if I see it a second time, knowing what the overall intent of the piece is, that I could enjoy it more. But on first viewing, I did think that, like, all right, if you're going to take 3.5 hours to tell me the American dream is sometimes a nightmare, it's like, okay, no shit, thank you, surprise, surprise. Like,
Yeah,
I want a little bit
you
more
could have learned that
substance.
in Anora.
Yeah,
Anora says the same thing.
exactly. And the Nora is like what, an hour and a half shorter, so like, or at least an hour
Yeah,
shorter. So I'm like, come on, Brutalist, make your
let's pick
movie.
it up. Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. And yes, Nickel Boys, I think, is a December release. It might be limited in December and then wide in January, but we'll
Mhm.
see. I think that moving it from October to December was a sign of confidence, but I hope it's not too
Even though the
late. I
last
hope people.
December movie to win Best Picture was what, Million Dollar Baby?
Yeah, it's been a while. So Nickel
Yeah.
Boys making history in many ways.
Also, poor juror number two.
I know we didn't even talk about it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a good
Well, because
movie,
nobody's talking about it. What a weird strategy. Because even again, I understand maybe you don't want to run an awards campaign, but it's Clint freaking Eastwood. I'm pretty sure that if you got behind
and
it, it would have made some money.
yeah,
I was shocked.
and it did well overseas. So
It's
who
inexplicable.
knows?
And it's not like it
It
has
is
some like weird
inexplicable.
political messaging either that like they're
No.
ashamed of. Like it's just a standard movie. It's really weird.
No, it is very weird, but I saw it. I liked it enough. I don't think it was amazing, but yeah, interesting
Um,
stuff. And
yes, I wanted to talk.
yeah,
I don't think so because I think the people who are rooting for it understand that it's still an outlier. Like they're still an underdog. So if it misses, I don't think people are going to be like upset. But I think people are seeing that it's getting a lot of more attention than we thought for a September release. People are really keeping the movie in the conversation. And so I don't think they're setting because, like,
it
I
did
think for the two of
well.
us, if it misses, if Demi Moore doesn't get in, I don't think we're going to be heartbroken. I don't think it's going to be a Charles Melton
No,
situation.
no, it would not be. No, I really like the film. It's not like my favorite film of the year, though. And I do think I think in terms of Demi Moore, she's very good in the film, but I do think there's maybe a little overhyped. It's a good performance. It's not like Tony Clinton,
Yeah,
Hereditary, or even Lupita Nyong'o. Like it's a good performance, but it's not like incredibly showy. So I feel like there might be a little like even I liked me personally. I liked like Naomi Scott in Smile 2, or like Willa Fitzgerald in Strange Darling more so than Demi Moore. But
I
Demi
think
definitely has
Willa
narrative.
Fitzgerald definitely. I think if substance does not materialize, I think then we can say that Poor Things really benefited from the period aesthetic. That's what helped that movie because they're very Substance is a little bit more visceral, clearly, but I think Poor Things maybe walked, so Substance could run as far as getting nominations.
We'll see. We'll see. Poor Substance was the it came out of Poor Things back. Is what happened. So, yeah, that's our updated thoughts on this. That's pretty much it. Like we said, we've covered everything. Expect more thoughts coming soon. I expect like we'll talk about all these categories more once we've
Once Jack has
completed
seen Wicked.
Wicked. I know, I know. And Gladiator is an interesting case too, because I think it's definitely seeming more like an entertaining film than a like Oscar film. So we'll see.
Yeah, we didn't
We'll
even
see for
mention
sure.
Ridley Scott in Best
No,
Director.
no, he's not. Yeah, that's not
Oh,
happening
God.
at all. My Charles Melton this year is maybe Marion Jean Baptiste
I
is my
was going to
favorite
say, I think that's, but
performance of the
also
year.
you're accepting of the fact that it's not overwhelmingly likely she gets a nomination. I
Yeah,
think Charles Melton has to be something that you think is like a top two
because that
contender.
was also my favorite film of the year and my favorite performance of the year. So like Hard
I
Truth
think
is not my
I
favorite
think it's
film.
going to be Nickel Boys. I think that's going to be your Charles Melton.
They probably will be Nickel Boys. I also love Harris Dickinson and Baby Girl, and I love that film. So
Mhm.
maybe it'll be that too. So, but I
Yeah.
know that's not going to happen. I don't have any expectations for that. So probably Nickel Boys. So I agree. I do have Marianne in there, but she's on the edge. So we'll see. You'll learn more about that in our next acting predictions video coming very soon. So thank you all for watching. We're gonna try as the season picks up to do more live streams, interact with y'all more.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and we'll see you in the next video after this.
Bye, everyone.